You space bastard! You killed my pan!
This is my review for the movie Only Lovers Left Alive. And this is another one of the movies a lot of people's best of list. This is on there, so I wanted to watch it as soon as I could. So, like I said, a lot of people have put this on their best of 2014 list. It's directed and written by Jim Jarmusch. I haven't seen a lot of his movies, but the one that I have seen I really like is called Dead Man from the 90s. It stars Johnny Depp, and it's a Western. It's a very unique Western. It's really good. It's probably one of my favorite movies. But I haven't seen too many of his other movies. Actually, I think I own Mystery Train. I just haven't watched it yet. But anyways, he does have like Broken Flowers with Bill Murray. It's probably one of his more recent ones. So this movie is about kind of like a centuries-old romance. And it's a really, I guess not super unique, but a different take on the vampire genre. So Tilda Swinton and Tom Hiddleston play Adam and Eve, and they're both vampires, and they're really old, as most vampires are. They've been alive for multiple centuries, and the start of the movie, they're living separately. Eve is in Tangiers, and Adam is in Detroit, and Adam is a musician, and so they're separated, but eventually, they're married, and they've been in love for such a long time that they decide to get back together and meet up. It never really is mentioned or told why they're, separated at the beginning, why they're living in different locations. It's not really important, though. But, so Eve's in Tangiers, but while she's there, she also has another friend that is a vampire, played by John Hurt. His name's Marlowe. But he'll come into play a little bit later. It just kind of shows their seclusion. So she only has this one friend, really. And I really like the fact that they talk about John Hurt's character, Marlowe, and they talk about how he used to write all of Shakespeare's plays. And, he never got the credit for it and stuff like that. I thought that was interesting. Kind of tying it back to how old they are and some of the stuff that they might have done. They do something similar with Adam as a musician, and talks about how he gave some of his best, well, not some of his work to certain composers that were really famous in their time in the 17 or 1800s. But then he like mentions just kind of offhandedly, that wasn't the best part that I wrote or whatever that I gave him. Interesting stuff like that. So it shows that they've been around for a long time, and they're really good at the arts, is what I got out of it, writing music. So I like that part of it. But while Eve has Marlowe and Tangiers with her, they don't live together or anything. They meet up every once in a while. But Adam, on the other hand, is very, very secluded in Detroit. He lives way out in the boonies where no one could find him, and he only has one friend, really. And friend is used loosely. His name's Ian, played by Anton Yelchin. He comes around, and at the very beginning, he gives him all these guitars, these really rare guitars that he sells him, and so he just kind of is like a gopher for him. He goes around and gets him what he needs, music-wise, so guitars and other random stuff. So they each kind of have a very, very limited social circle, Adam and Eve, but eventually they do decide to get together again, and Eve travels to Detroit to be back with Adam. And right away you get that they've been in love for a long time, and they have this really unique bond. Eventually they're there, and Eve hears from her sister. Well, it's actually interesting. Eve, Adam, and Marlowe, they all are kind of having dreams of Eve's sister, Ava, and they think it's kind of a weird occurrence that they're all having these dreams, and they assume that it means that she's going to be showing up soon, and that is what happens. So Eve's younger sister, Ava, and they mentioned that she's actually not like her real sister or her blood sister, so I kind of took that as maybe Eve turned Ava into a vampire a long time ago or whatever, and they're not actually related, as in same parents. I think she just turned her at one point. Ava is played by Mia Wasikowska. She's a really good actress. I like her. And so she gets there and just kind of ruins everything for him because Adam and Eve just want to be by themselves and just do their own thing, be out of the public eye. And Ava wants to go out and go listen to music and go to clubs, and she kind of takes a liking to Ian as they go out and stuff like that. And she kind of puts a wrench in their whole system that they have going on. I thought it was interesting that the way they portrayed Ava. It's obvious that she's younger, so she's not as old as Adam and Eve, but they make her like a kid, like a little like 7 or 8-year-old kid. That's how she acts, even though she's at least a couple decades old, because they mentioned the last time she visited Adam and Eve was in like the 20s or the 30s in Paris, and she ruined that situation too. So she's pretty, she's lived quite a while. It's just kind of interesting to make her act like a kid. I don't know why she'd revert back to being a child, even though she's like this so old, I thought that was interesting. It doesn't ruin anything. It's just kind of an interesting way to play it. But that's pretty much the plot, and something happens with Ava, and Adam and Eve have to eventually make a decision about what they want to do with themselves. And one other actor that makes an appearance a couple times is Jeffrey Wright, plays a doctor that supplies Adam with his blood, and his part's really small, but I like seeing him. He's a good actor. So I'm giving this movie a 4.25 out of 5. It's really good. It's not like a horror movie, even though it deals with vampires. It's kind of just a minor part of the story. It's just not they're not going around killing a bunch of people all the time and stuff like that. So it's just kind of just a weird quirk that they have, that they happen to be vampires. It's more about this love between Adam and Eve and how long they've lived together and stuff like that. The movie is beautifully shot. Notice that right away. There's just some really good cinematic shots, and there's great music throughout it, and it makes sense. I mean, that's fitting because Adam is a musician and stuff like that, so you'd like to think that there's really good music to go along with it. I thought it was also interesting because Adam lives in Detroit, and when Eve first comes to move in with him, he takes her around at night, and he takes her to Jack White's house that he grew up in. I thought that was interesting, just because it's like a nod to Detroit and good music now. I thought that was pretty cool. One thing I wasn't really sure about was they always wear gloves, Adam, Eve, and Ava. And at one point, I noticed them, but then at one point, it's even mentioned by Ian, because he's not a vampire, he's just a normal person. But they're at a bar together at a club, and he's like, "Oh, I really like your guys' gloves, really cool." But it's never explained why they're wearing gloves, and I couldn't think of anything just off the top of my head from vampire mythology or anything. The only thing I kind of thought about was that their skin and hands are probably cold because they're technically dead or whatever. That's the only thing I could think of, is that they have cold hands, and it'd be weird to touch somebody with their hands without gloves because it'd be so cold or something like that. They'd feel dead. That's the only thing I could think of, but I was just kind of interested. I was just kind of more interested than anything about why they had the gloves on and stuff. So yeah, this isn't on Netflix. I watched it online a different way, but it's a really good movie. I could definitely see why it's on people's best of lists. It's a great spin on that whole vampire mythology, and it's beautifully shot. It's a great movie, especially since all takes place at night. Some great stuff going on there. So I would definitely check it out. So, all right, that'll be my review.